what's going on? How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
You know, awesome, blessed. It's Black History Month. You know what I'm saying? How are you this morning, Tiffany?
I'm good. Excited to be here.
Yeah? Do you have any fun plans on this Saturday morning?
Sitting and talking with you two, obviously. What can be more fun than that?
I really hope you have other plans. All right on. Well, thank you for joining us. Do you know what is about to happen?
I have an idea. I think I'm about to embarrass myself on some 90s music trivia.
No, you're going to do great. All right, so for those who are brand new here, we're about to play a little game. It's called That's My Jam 90s R&B Edition. Shout out Jay Fallon. Still waiting on that lawsuit, my brother. All right, so here are the rules in case you don't already know them. Tiffany and I are going to have 2 songs each. That's 4 songs. Each card has the lyrics of the song along with the name of the artist and the name of the song. So you have to guess either the name of the song or the name of the artist. If you know both, that's what's up. Doesn't matter. Points are still the same. So it's yes. All right. So when you're ready to guess, just say pause. You get 2 guesses, so make them count. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, Tiffany, here are your 2 songs. And you want to start with song number 1?
Sure.
Cool. Get your vocals ready. Did you do your scales?
I feel like I need to. All right. While all the time that I was loving you, you were busy loving yourself. I would stop breathing if you told me to. Now you're busy loving someone else. 11 years out of my life. Besides the kids, I have nothing to show. Wasted my years, a fool of a wife. I should have left your...
I love this song. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I should have left you a long time ago. I was your lover and your secretary, working every day of the week. Was at the job when no one else was there, helping you get on your feet.
Jay.
11 years of sacrifice, and you can leave me at the drop of a dime.
What?
It's me. It's
Give me. No, give me. Okay, this is my cut. So what we not gonna do is not know this one. All right, here we go. While all the time that I was loving you, you were busy loving yourself. I would stop breathing if you told me to. Now you're busy loving someone else. 11 years of... Yeah? No?
Mary J. Blige?
Yes.
Not Gonna Cry?
No, that's not... Wait, that is right. Yeah.
Is it? Oh, wait.
Yes.
Loud and wrong.
That's the right... You're right.
Yeah.
Yes, that was my bad. Please beep that out. You were correct. I was wrong. My bad. Okay. She got 1. All right. Song number 2. I just left my baby girl a message saying I wouldn't be coming home. I'd rather be alone. She doesn't fully understand me.
Pause. I know this.
Right?
Where I Want to Be, Donnell Jones.
Hey, making her ancestors proud.
Here, just do this one too.
Why? Okay. Oh, that's because it's kind of... Okay, hold on. With every passing moment, thoughts of you running through my head. Every time that I'm near you, I realize that you're heaven sent, baby. I think you're truly something special, just what my dreams are really made of. Let's stay together, you and me, boy. There's no one like you around. I really like what you've done.
Pause.
Okay.
I'm So Into You?
Yes. Hey, okay.
Come on.
3 for 3. You want to do this one?
What's this one? I'll try. Like, what are we doing here? Okay. I don't know what it is that you've done to me, but it's caused me to act in such a crazy way. Whatever it is that you do when you do what you're doing, it's a feeling that I want to stay. 'Cause my heart starts beating triple time with thoughts of loving you on my mind.
Pause. Weak? SWV?
Yeah. Oh, 4 out of 4. Representing 95. What's up? Man, Man, you got the highest score. She's number 1 on the leaderboard, y'all. That's what's up. Well, congratulations. You are now winning. All right, let's get down to business. Let's get to what everybody actually came here for. If you're brand new here, welcome. If you already know the vibes, welcome back. I'm Jordan, a.k.a. Jay, a.k.a. The Chosen One, a.k.a. Big Stepper, a.k.a. Ghostface Killer, a.k.a. Ran out of stuff. Go ahead, Tiffany.
I am Tiffany B, and we're excited to have you here for the Stats on Stats podcast, where we get to talk to leaders and professionals in the cyber technology IT space. And today, speaking of those leaders, we have someone with us today. Her name is Josey, and we're going to give her a moment to tell you a little bit about herself.
Yeah, well, hey, my name is Josey, and I currently work in the tech space, specifically in cybersecurity background, and super excited to be on the show and just kind of talk through a couple of topics and just kind of tell my story.
Well, thank you for introducing yourself. So if you don't mind sharing with us, how did you get here? Tell us your origin story. What's the vibes?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started out in tech by accident. So I joined the military and I was really just wanting to find a job. And the job that I chose just happened to leave before a different option. And that job just so happened to be in cybersecurity. So once I chose that job, I had, a little bit of time through basic training and stuff, hated my life. And then I went to my schooling for it. So we call it AIT. And so from there, I had about 1.5 to 2 years of training of just foundational cybersecurity knowledge. And then it just kind of had additional building blocks on top of it. So then from there, I went to my unit. I, was working in cybersecurity, doing incident response and really focusing in on network traffic. And then I got out. And when I got out, I went to work across the street, doing the same exact thing, just wearing a different outfit. And then I did that for a little bit as well. And then I got an offer to work remote. So I left.
Smart.
And in that role, it was really more of trying to teach people how I did the things that I did using a specific tool. And so from there, I just kind of worked my way up. And now I'm in the management side of the house for the team that still does the teaching and the development of the content for cybersecurity using that product.
Right on. So it's like we talked about during the sync. I swear the military is good at redirecting you because just like you, I wanted to, when I was going to join the military, I was like, I'm dropping out of college. I don't want to go back home. I need to do something. So I joined the military. I'm like, I'm going to be a medic. And then I get there and they're like, no, you're not. We ain't got none of them jobs. But you want to do radios? I'm like, all right. The military is good at that, especially when you're like, I want to go now. I do whatever as long as it's behind a desk somewhere. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's up, though. What about you, Tiffany? Because you were in the military. How did that play out for you?
I did pretty much what I wanted. I wanted to be outside in the sunlight doing manual labor. So I asked to be behind a computer.
Pause for a second. Yeah. She didn't want to do manual labor because growing up she picked cotton. Go ahead.
You so funny.
We need to come back to that because it is February.
It was tobacco, and we will. But yeah, I wanted, what I asked was to be behind a computer. So it didn't necessarily redirect me initially. I think you could say my goals, because I joined the Army to be a lawyer. And somehow I am not Matlock. So it redirected me there.
Gucci. That's just how it is. Yeah. So do you mind telling us, while you're in the military, just because I know you were a 17 Charlie, right?
Yes.
What did that look like? What did the AIT look like for that?
Yeah, so 17 Charlie first was basic, and then the first phase, we had 2 phases of our AIT actually, which is a little bit uncommon for most jobs that you pick in the military, for the Army at least. But we had a phase 1, so that was a qualifying school where we went through something called JCAC. So it was the Joint Cyber Analysis course, and it was held down in Pensacola, Florida. So we were on a Navy base as Army people going through this class, and that was interesting. And then once we graduated from there, we actually had a follow-on training for 6 more months. And that follow-on training was basically really focused in on like the Army specific side of the house, or at least that's what they said. And then, we had to go through that and complete it as well. So once we completed JCAC, which was about, I want to say 6 to 8 months, maybe a little bit longer. And then the phase two, which was an additional 6 months, we basically graduated. And so then we were ready to be called 17 Charlies. And then we kind of just, went to our units. But now if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that they've changed the school here recently. So you don't have to go through both phases. You can just go through the Army specific phase.
Okay, that's interesting. Have you ever heard of the University of West Florida?
I have not.
You haven't? That's where it's in Pensacola. That's where I did my first 2 years of undergrad before I dropped out and joined the Army. Yeah. Pensacola's dope. I love it there. So what do you do right now? Like, if you don't mind me asking, you did the military thing and then you transition. What do you do right now today? What does that look like?
Yeah, so right now I am a manager or my title is like Senior Manager of Education Services. So basically what I do is all of the like manager things for my team, and my team's responsible for both teaching and developing content on using a product called the Elastic Stack for security and cybersecurity use cases. So right now, it's been a little bit of an exercise stepping away from things that are like technical or technically based and focused, and more into the business side of making sure that things are running smoothly.
Would you say you were like seeking the ability to teach when you moved into that role, or is it something also that you didn't expect?
I will be honest here and say I wasn't looking in particular to be like a teacher. My origin story was that, I was transitioning out of the military during the height of COVID. And I was working in like a classified space, so I had to be there in person in the height of COVID. And so it was a matter of just, it's not that ideal type of situation. And then when a recruiter reached out to me on LinkedIn, I was like, I'm not really actively looking, but remote sounds great. So let's talk about it. And so it was definitely something that I just kind of fell into. And it's really funny because I feel that a lot of people just kind of fall into something, especially when it deals with like tech, because there's so many different niches and there's so many different things out there that it's hard to even know. When I was leaving the military and looking at jobs, like it didn't even cross my mind that teaching or, going down that career path would have been something that would have interested me 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
That is so true, though. Like that whole falling into kind of whatever you're going to end up having as a career. Because I remember coming out of the military, I swore I was like, I want to be an analyst. That is absolutely what I want to do. And then I started being an analyst and I'm like, don't love this, what else is there? And then I became super obsessed with just the idea of how do the engineers put this tool together that we look at, which is obviously my Elastic. Well, I'm so happy to be at Elastic with my Elastic origin story. Can we talk about the fact that you worked in a skiff during COVID? Let's talk about it.
How much time do we have?
Let's talk about it. Let's do that. Let's talk about that for a second. So what was that like? No windows, no air? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, we were in a tin can and it was not ideal. That's the best way I can describe it, just because I think the COVID phrase was, these unprecedented times, but like they really meant it when they say unprecedented. So no one really had an established protocol to follow. The social distancing rules were just impossible to implement in certain places just because of how like things were set up. And then in addition to that, I was a contractor, and the way that contracting worked for that particular job was that you basically worked X amount of days, you had X amount of time kind of baked into the contract as time off. But if you had COVID, they had to figure things out, right? And so it was a lot of figuring things out and establishing them as they went or as something came up. And, working in an environment where if there's an incident or something big happens, you have to kind of go into a smaller room and be even closer together. It was just a nightmare.
Tiffany, you should go ahead and share your experience
Yeah.
working in a skiff during COVID.
I can 100% relate to just, I quit my job. I'm already the person that, like, no COVID, no nothing. I walk into any room and I'm like, usually I have my hand sanitizer, I have my Lysol wipes, and like spraying everything down, wiping it. Like this keyboard I'm just, what's his name? Monk.
Oh yeah.
So I'm already Miss Germaphobe. And then COVID happened and I'm just like, I spent X amount of years in the Army and I always felt like whenever something went wrong, we're rushing in there. Like, we don't get to stay home. And when I got out, for me, I was like, okay, now I get to be one of those people that don't have to go running into the building. When there's a fire, I get to, like, kind of relax. And when COVID happened and I was still walking into the building every day, and I was like, one day I just had to call and be like, I don't think I can do this. It worked out. They worked with me. They did not send me running out the door, but yeah, I had a really, really tough time being in that skiff.
So to rephrase, she tried to quit and they were like, no, you could work from home though.
You know what?
You could do that.
All I can do is work from home.
Yeah, you could do that, but yeah.
I did.
Yeah, that was a crazy time. That was actually, by the time I had realized COVID was so crazy is when I got a job at Elastic and I was like, cool, I work from home now. So that worked out. You know what I'm saying? So it's all good. All right. So my question for you is right now, you're essentially teaching. So how do you stay current?
Yeah, so staying current is like a dual-headed effort because not only is there an obligation to stay current as far as the product itself, advances, just normal cadence of release, but also there is kind of like an onus to stay current with the environment as well. So for staying current with the product, that just comes down to making sure that, we're reading technical docs, we're going and talking to the teams and making sure that we actually understand what's going on and what's kind of to come and what's to expect. And then for staying current with like the environment, there's like numerous amounts of just resources, blogs, Twitter or X now. It has a ton of researchers that just kind of post out all of their stuff. That's super helpful. And then from like the technical side of the house, I actually really like going on Instagram and following certain creators that are kind of like tech focused or coding focused, just because getting those constant like little reminders every day is super helpful for when you're just busy, don't necessarily have time to sit down and, go through a book or something like that.
Could you tell us any of those resources that you're constantly following or getting your information from?
Yeah. So for Instagram, I have a couple of accounts that I really, really like for the coding side of the house. So one is called Code Tour IG, and he just kind of goes through basic, how do you do insert task here and insert language here. And then the other person that I love following it's Tunde Anthony. And he's really cool because he will basically write out the same code, but in different languages. And the last language he will code in is assembly. So assembly is super hard to understand, right? Assembly is super hard to understand. And it's one of the more like niche languages since it's kind of underlying and then everything else kind of builds on top of it. So it's really cool to just see, kind of bare bones what's going on with that. And then on the threat intel side of the house, really love, his name is Kevin Beaumont, and he basically just gives out a lot of, breaking news, updates, things like that. Insert person here has been compromised, things like that. And then there's another creator, Alvieri D, as his handle, and he basically does the same thing. So just like cyber threat researching and things like that. And then you have the normal, like Krebs on security type where you can just always have something updated. So yeah, there's a lot out there.
So awesome. What's your favorite, because cybersecurity, it's broken into so many different things, so many different aspects. So what would you say is kind of like your area that you're like, I love this?
Oh, that's hard. I would say that doing incident response and focusing in on like network traffic was probably the most interesting thing that I've done. So I would definitely, rate that highly. But I think that in general, if we're talking about like wish lists of things I think are interesting, I think that like malware analysis and reverse analysis, like those things are so cool to see. And, I'm not good at it, but somebody is. So that's definitely up there as well.
Have you seen any of Tanisha's series that she's put out for malware analysis?
The Cybersec Diva?
Yeah.
I'm knowing.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And then also we have another person, James Pateri has Oh My Malware, and that's also an amazing site. And you can even download samples there if you have a Premium Virus Total account. So definitely heavily supporting my fellow elasticians in their journeys.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but I will say like Elastic, like in terms of the security stuff they've been doing over the last couple of years, super cool. Like security labs, I'm always tapped into those. Those are always super interesting as well. Yeah. I don't want to take over this whole thing, so I'm going to let Tiffany ask some questions.
Actually, I was going to ask you, like, what are some things or some resources that you're like, oh, I love tapping into this?
Right now, I love watching Marcus Hutchins show me how to clone Tesla keys. Yep, so I can break into people's stuff. Gotcha. No, I'm just kidding. I would never, ever. But I would say right now, I'm really into staying current with different news articles. I use my little RSS feed every day to stay tapped into what's going on. And typically I'll pick and choose what's the most interesting to me. But yeah. And I just went to the SAN Cyber Threat Intelligence Summit. And I want to articulate this correctly because I want to sound serious. Okay. All right. So in terms of like conferences and talks like that, typically I'm not a big person when it comes to that, right? Like sitting in a room for hours at a time, listening to people talk, like that's just not my ministry typically. But the SAN Cyber Threat Intelligence Summit, like it was incredible. It actually kind of made me realize, like, I always knew what cyber threat intelligence was, but being surrounded by like those analysts and those people just like constantly talking about the concepts and the way that the cyber threat intel community is growing, it kind of made me think like my love for data and my love for cybersecurity, I might actually want to live there in that like cyber threat intelligence space. So right now I'm trying to look for resources that are going to get me a little bit more spun up in that regard. Sorry, I just talked way too long. What about you, Tiffany? No. What's your thing right now?
My thing right now is school. There is just so much time that now I have to shuffle over to like, when am I going to have time to do this homework and also still be able to practice and get my hands on the computer? So no, my focus is school.
Shout out to University of Central Florida. Go Knights.
Oh, my gosh.
Go Knights. What's up?
Oh,
that's what's
goodness.
up. Yeah, okay. So, all right. So I know that after we had our sync, there was something I really wanted you to elaborate on. We touched on it a little bit, but 10 years from now, where do you see yourself?
Besides on a beach in Turks and Caicos.
Hey.
I see myself actually maybe starting something of my own. And I would love to, in a perfect world, have my own company that focuses in on doing like penetration testing and have it be more of like a full service type of deal. Typically with penetration tests, you have your test and then you get your risk mitigation plan or like your kind of walking papers of, okay, these are all the things that you need to fix. And then that's kind of it. Then you go into a separate kind of engagement for actually implementing the fixes and things like that. So I would love to have something where we kind of full service from penetration testing to hardening systems and also monitoring afterwards. And we just kind of own that whole process for different businesses. Or, I wouldn't mind retiring either. So I'm not going to be picky. And it's so weird to, now dive deeper into it because I honestly love what I do right now too. So I could 100% see myself still with my current company as well. So lots of different options out there.
So what are you doing, if you don't mind me asking? And I know I asked this before, but it's just, it's super interesting. But like, what are you currently doing to sort of work towards at some point potentially starting your own company?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is just trying to stay sharp on the technical side. So even though my day to day is like filling out time cards and approving expense reports and making slideshows, things like that, I still don't want to lose all of the technical ability that I have. So just going through, making sure I'm current on my certs and still getting more certs, making sure that I'm just, not completely oblivious to what's going on out there in the security world. And then also making sure that whenever, cool things come up, I don't let them just kind of become noise, if that makes sense. I feel that a lot of times in this field, there's just so much constant information kind of being thrown at you that it's really hard to just kind of take everything as valuable and really dive deeply into it and, devote time and effort to it. So I try to be very present and intentional about everything I'm paying attention to.
What do you do kind of to be present, but also disconnect from the world of like cybersecurity?
Yeah, so when it's time to log out, I'm logged out, right? So I don't try to work all the time every day. So, I'll have maybe like a set number of hours that I'm just kind of no phone, no computers, just kind of touching grass, so to speak. And then, I love to spend time like going to the gym, playing with my dog, and just keeping hobbies outside of tech as well.
Do you actually walk outside with no shoes on and touch the grass?
So I'm feeling kind of judged right
I'm not judging. I know that's a thing, so I'm just asking.
now. So I don't mind that I'll go out there, especially with my dog, but I don't make it a frequent occurrence.
Okay. Isn't it called like grounding or something? I feel like, Anthony, you know the answer to this. You look like you walk outside with
Don't put me on the spot.
Yeah, I think it's called grounding. Like it's an actual thing that people consciously do. And so whenever I go outside now with no shoes on, I'm like, this is a thing. I'm doing this thing. That is a thing. Google it later. Trust me. I'm telling you the truth. I wouldn't lie to you. I don't think. You went from, I know you wanted to be a linguist, actually. You wanted to join the military, be a linguist. So you probably didn't really have much of a tech background. You went through training, all that stuff. So how would you relay to somebody who's interested, right? Similar to you, like how would you relay to someone who's interested, brand new, has questions? Like how can they get spun up on cybersecurity?
Yes. So the first thing I will say is that if someone is selling you a boot camp, a singular person is selling you their program to make six figures in 8 weeks, or don't do it. Do not do any of those like boot camps or things like that. If you are brand new, fresh into this and you really want to explore, I would highly recommend starting small and just making sure that this field is something that genuinely interests you. I know a lot of people, want to shift into tech, and it's very easy to be kind of allured with the like prospect of high salaries and a better work-life balance. But there is a certain level of technical ability that is kind of required with the field. So first, find out if you like it. So read through maybe freer trainings or cheaper trainings. So like trying through like Hack the Box, different things where it's maybe $9.99 a month instead of someone's $500-600 boot camp. Then if you actually like genuinely like the field and you find it interesting, what I would do is to start looking for programs, so college programs where there are certifications built into the actual degree program itself. So a couple of them, the one from UMGC, so University of Maryland Global Campus, and Western Governors University, both have degree programs where certifications are the actual class within your syllabus or within your degree plan. So if you need to get like GCIA or some other SANS cert, the class itself is you going through that certification. And if you pass or fail the class is if you obtain the cert or not. So doing that's a good way to come out of a program with both a degree and a lot of certifications. So then from there, what I would do is actually try to get in with a government job. So I would check out USA jobs, clearance jobs, just different forums where you could kind of make a break into cybersecurity, especially if you can get something where you can have a security clearance sponsored for you, because then that just kind of opens up a lot of different avenues for, switching paths. And working with the government's pretty stable and safe as well. And so after you land your nice GS government job, then I would recommend just kind of learning all that you can, staying technical, and then eventually switching over to a privately owned company where they will probably really laud you for your experience working with the government. You have a niche background, and you can probably demand a premium at that point as well.
Ooh, she's over here giving all the secrets. Making it too competitive out here, Jay. You got to chill with dropping all them gems over here, man. So you mentioned going to school and actually getting those certs. That was actually why. So I went to grad school. I went to University of Tampa, used my GI Bill, University of Tampa, to get my master's. But then I found out about the SANS Institute. And so, and so that's where I ended up going, because I was like, I want to continue my education. Like, what do I do? But I actually wanted to make sure I was doing something technical. And so I will call this out. The SANS Institute is fire. Like, you get to do the certs. The certs are all like performance based. Like, I would say hands down in terms of industry certifications, if you are going to get one, if you have an opportunity to go the SANS route, it was dope. Highly recommend it. 10 out of 10. Not paid to say that. All right. So
I'm actually glad you mentioned the plethora of people to follow on Instagram, and also that you mentioned, like, there's so many resources that you don't want to get bogged down with it. Something I've started telling people who ask us this question, like, I ask us, how do we get into cyber or cybersecurity or a technical role? And then when we ask, what exactly do you want to do? They say, I don't know.
Yeah.
I've started answering that question now with, okay, well, get exposure. And then I also kind of lead them towards something that's free, which is Professor Messer. Kind of getting that exposure, like learning those baseline things. And then while you're doing that with your right hand, also like viewing all of those Instagram, Twitter, like other courses and stuff that can, social media, right? That can kind of like give you more exposure and trying to help guide you into a direction.
Something that you said as well that I feel like we need to add on like a loop is people hear cyber and they hear money, right? They hear it and they're like, ooh, I'm going to get 6 figures. But it's like, really, if you don't have a passion for it, you could almost equate it to, and I'm not really equating it to this, but you kind of could. Like, it's equivalent to me being a doctor or a lawyer. Like, you're not allowed to stop learning. Like, you constantly have to be learning. So if you're not passionate about it, it's going to start to show very, very early on in your career. So don't chase the salary. Otherwise, you're going to be miserable. Like, if you're going to do it because you actually love it. So like I said, we need to put that on a loop because we hear that a lot. All right. So I have a really complicated question for you. It has layers. It's very deep. And you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. You ready?
I'm ready.
How do you deal with the pressure that comes along with, 1, being a female, and 2, being a female in a very male-dominated space? Like, how do you handle that pressure?
I think this is going to be a hot take, but in my personal experience, I haven't necessarily felt a lot of pressure, but I have felt like a lot of eyes. And I feel that whenever we are in a situation where we are in the minority, whether that's, a woman in a male-dominated society, or one of the youngest, or one of the oldest, or one of the brownest, it's an avenue where people just kind of can look at you more, and then they're just kind of sitting and waiting. So I think that for my personal experiences, it has kind of been something that I could use in my favor because, I've been the only woman. I've been the only one that looked like me in a lot of my teams before. And when I've performed or when well, I think that it was magnifying glass where people were like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting that, or I'm just not really what people expect. And I remember actually when I was going through my military training, my first day getting to Pensacola, the sergeant looks at me and he's like, you're not a 17 Charlie. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And so, it was said in jest, but just some things like that I take as motivation where I'm like, okay, challenge accepted. We're going to prove everyone wrong and just, do our best. I would say to turn the pressure into something positive or to try to harness it and just take power over it is the best way forward for any situation like that.
I'm gonna tell a brief story, not even a brief story, but give like my honest opinion. So growing up, and I remember this played a really key. This was a key thing that happened in my life. So when I was about 8 or 9 years old, we were moving from, it's called Bellwood. It's predominantly Black. And I remember right before we were moving, because we were moving to the suburbs, and where we were moving is very, very white. I'll say that. It's just the truth. And this woman, I don't know why she did this, but she pulled me aside. She was a Black woman, pulled me aside, took a pie, and she cut like a tiny piece of this pie. And she was like, you're this piece of the pie. And I was like, okay, I'm 8 or 9 years old. Cool. Am I going to eat it? Like, what's popping, right? And she was literally like, where you're about to go, she's like, you see what's inside this pie? Like, this is you. She said, where you're about to go, it's going to be like the rest of this pie. Like, basically referring to the fact that I was going to be in a very white space, right? And so she was just like, you need to basically be performant, is essentially what she said. She was just like, you basically need to be performant. There are going to be a lot of eyes on you. I expect a lot of you. You're going to do great things, but just be aware that you're going to be one of very few who looks like you. And I've noticed that throughout the course of my career is just being Black, being female, being in a lot of white spaces. It used to, the pressure I used to put on myself, right? Because I'd be like, I need to be as good as my peers. And then when I get to a point where I was like, I'm as good as my peers, I'd recognize, no, I need to be better than my peers in order to stand out. And so I was putting so much pressure on myself, I would say from the time I was 9 years old until probably 3 years ago. And I finally now have gotten to a point where I'm just like, you know what? All I can do is my best.
Yeah.
All I can do is my best. That is how I'm going to have to navigate the world, because otherwise, you constantly putting that pressure on yourself, you never get to a place where you get to find peace. And there's no sustainability in that. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't mean to go off on a soapbox, but that's something I'm passionate about. That is something that when I have kids, when I talk to young people, do your best. That's all you can do, period. So anyway, sorry, y'all. Okay, so I'm going to set the scene for you, Josey. You ready for this? It is 2030. You are at a high school cafeteria. It's probably actually a Chick-fil-A at this point, right? You were in high school.
We've outsourced school lunch to Chick-fil-A.
We've outsourced it to Chick-fil-A. You are standing there. It is career day. All right. Somebody walks up to you and they're like, I'm really interested in breaking into this field. I want to do what you're doing. What is some advice that you have for me?
Advice I would have would be, one, you are never too smart to learn. And I say that because, especially in tech, I feel there are a lot of, I guess, I wouldn't say taboos, but there's a lot of aversion to just asking questions, saying, no, I don't know, or hey, can you explain that? And the minute that you feel that you can't ask a question or that it's something that you should have already known and you're too kind of intimidated to ask, that's a missed opportunity there. So yeah, definitely remember to always be willing to learn. And then also I would say that it's okay to fail. And I know that that is, pretty cliche and it's said all the time, but I have seen firsthand where it's been okay to fail. It's been okay to change my mind on things, to have a completely different career path, overnight pretty much. And it's okay. It has all worked out. So yeah, I would say the two biggest things, always stay curious. You're never too smart to learn something, and you're never dumb for not knowing something. And then the other thing would be to just, make sure that you keep an open mind.
Are you have you ever read any books by Adam Grant? Yeah.
That's so funny that you mentioned that.
Think
Yes.
Again.
So story time. I actually have one of the people that I work with, a colleague of mine. We have a book club, and we read something all the time, right? And Adam Grant is actually one of his favorite authors, and he just recently released a book. So yes, I'm well aware of the Adam Grant. What's your favorite piece of his work?
So right now I'm reading Think Again, because I've like read it, and I'm one of those people I have to read a book twice at least because I'm so like my mind's all over the place. But Think Again, I really like. And so when you were talking about that just now, I was thinking about that book. Are you also a Malcolm Gladwell fan?
No, I am not.
Girl,
Put me on.
girl, if you like Adam Grant, Malcolm Gladwell, the book Outliers, I like Tipping Point. That's good. Outliers is my favorite. So peep that. I think you'll like it. Okay, so here's my next question. Are you reading any books right now, like cybersecurity related?
Cybersecurity related? No, I'm not. I just came off of taking a SANS exam, so I'm just kind of decompressing before I sit for something else. So no, no books right now.
Which SANS exam did you just take?
This was, yes, GCDA.
See, I was creeping her LinkedIn last night in case I could find any way to ask additional questions.
What is that one?
Yeah, what is GCDA? What was that about?
Yeah, so GCDA basically was talking about the different, I guess, components of just doing threat hunt. It was based on a lot of things that had parallels with Elastic, so that's why I chose that cert. But it wasn't an Elastic training, if that makes sense. So I did go over just some basic things that you want to be aware of in general for, conducting analysis and doing like a threat hunting mission, things of the like. And then we had a little bit of foundational, like methodology-based things as well. But yeah, it was really focused in on just different ways that you can ingest data, different, not IOCs, but different places that you should investigate depending on the type of behavior that you're witnessing, and some different things like error codes, window event codes, things like that, that you need to be aware of when you're doing investigations as well.
Oh, that sounds dope. I've noticed that SANS uses, so I took GMON and GSOC and GSEC and some other stuff. But I noticed.
Okay, flex.
Hey. I didn't say I passed them all. I said I took them. What? But yeah, I noticed that SANS uses the Elastic Stack quite a bit, actually. So they stand. Like I said, I keep trying to give Tiffany a minute so she can ask a question. She really gets nervous, like really nervous.
Well, so if I can ask, so how do you kind of navigate those spaces where, sometimes you get nervous, sometimes maybe like words get flustered or things like that? Like, do you have any tips for people that kind of, I think that the worst thing in the world is when you know what you want to say, it's just not coming out. So do you have tips for people that, they can work through that?
I don't know if I have tips for people. Like sometimes I'm like, am I actually working through it? I've started taking classes, especially because of this podcast. I've started taking kind of some LinkedIn courses. I've started turning my camera on when I'm working, when I'm not working, when I'm practicing, turning the camera on and just recording myself, looking at myself when I'm actually talking, just get in the habit of like seeing where my pauses and where my concerns are and where I get overly nervous and trying to just continue to walk through what I'm feeling. Like my chest is jumping crazy right now. So just continuing to do it and see myself do it, I think is starting to be something that I would say to do or to practice doing. Just be okay with being in a space for a little while and saying like, just give me a minute maybe. And Jordan is really good with being like, okay, I'm going to give her a minute. Give her a minute to collect yourself. So I don't know. So contrary to popular belief, I am like a deep introvert with a huge fear of public speaking. And so I was telling her, like,
It was so bad for me at one point. Like, I would be in front of people and I'd be like, I just don't even, I have nothing, I can't, right? Like, I'd be nauseous, sweating, all of that. Like, couldn't hear anything. I actually took acting classes. I had to, I started taking acting classes in order to kind of help me navigate, like, speaking in front of people. And so now, like, when I'm doing stuff like this, I literally am tapped into, like, an alter ego. This is not the real me.
That is so cool. So I have to ask, in this kind of, post-COVID, very virtual friendly world, does this feel like public speaking, even though, we're not necessarily looking at the public right now?
Oh yeah, it does. And then knowing like it's being recorded. So all my little screw ups and like, oh, I didn't say this perfectly. It's out there. It's in the world. It's forever. So that adds to kind of like that the difficulties.
Yeah, for sure. I'm listening, girl. I'm just validating your response.
No. We didn't come here for this.
Well,
but thank you. Actually, I appreciate that, though. Thank you for, bringing it up and asking questions. I'm learning. I'm trying to work through it and just figure it out.
Yeah. When I went to the SANS CTI, when I went to the Cyber Threat Intel Summit, I was like, I'm going to go talk to people. 2024 is the year. I'm going to talk to people face to face. I'm looking at eyes like, we talking, we conversing. I swear I got there. I didn't say nothing to nobody. I went to the little talks and I was like, I hope nobody speaks to me. Please don't talk to me. So yeah, I'm still working through it.
You know what? That's actually weird though for me. Like going to those talks, like being in front of a person is a little different from me. Man, this is crazy. I didn't even think about this. I had to be a recruiter when I was in the Army and it felt like the worst thing in the world that they chose me to be a recruiter. I'm like, I talk to no one. What on earth? And then the way that I got through things, I know for me, I was like, what's the worst that can happen? I always catastrophize. But I was like, they could laugh at me, right? I'm asking somebody to join the military and they just laugh in my face. So I started with, I think the worst thing that could happen. So I would just make a joke and be like, boom, hey, have you ever thought about XYZ or whatever? And like, once I got them to laughing, after that, I'm just kind of like, they already did that. So let's just keep talking and see what happens. And then I just turn into the awkward bird, but I can do like face to face, but this is, I don't know.
What about you? Are you comfortable talking to people, being in front of people, public speaking? Like, what's that like for you?
I think it just really depends. I think that for situations that are kind of, high stakes, I am definitely nervous, but I had the same kind of physical response to public speaking as you just mentioned, where, I would get hot, my face would start burning, my ears would like kind of ring a little bit, and it would get so bad that I would speak and I wouldn't even remember like the beginning of my sentence by the time I got to the end of my sentence. And the whole time I'm just sitting there like, I hope that made sense. I hope it was English, and so I think that just with a lot of practice and also with a lot of just forcing myself to, talk, it's kind of gotten better. But there are definitely times where I'm like, wait, what did I just say? Or I hope that was the question that I just answered because that's what I thought I heard. So yeah, it's definitely difficult for me, even still, even though I don't think that I have issues with public speaking. I guess we'll play back this interview and see the real results.
I think you're more comfortable than the both of us, to be honest. Yeah. So, do you have any plans to speak on any panels or do any talks in the future, like at any sort of conferences? Because you have a really good presence. So.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. No, I actually haven't thought about it. I'll tell you that one of the first security conferences I've been to was B-Sides. And you know how B-Sides is kind of localized to a bunch of different areas. I've gone a couple of times to B-Sides Augusta, which is kind of local to me. And I feel that we were talking at a conference. That's like a whole new level of just fear, right? Because not only are you like in front of people, but you're in front of practitioners that know their stuff. Like these are the SMEs, these are the experts. And I think that is so nerve-wracking. Like, what if you get heckled and you misstate something and then they're booing you, just like tomato, tomato. So I don't think I'll be speaking at any conferences anytime soon, but I think that maybe one day down the line.
I was actually so I'm like, I didn't talk to anybody at the Sands conference. I actually did talk to like a couple people, but there's this one guy there. He's only 20 years old. He built, have you ever heard of O Center?
I don't think so.
It's okay if you haven't. It's cool. But he built this product called O Center. He built it when he was 17. He's 20 now, and he was a speaker at the summit. And I asked him before he went to do his talk, and I was like, I could never speak in front of people. Like, how do you do that? And he goes, you just keep doing it. You probably suck the first few times, but you just keep doing it. So that's my advice to you. You should suck a few times and just keep doing it. So
I feel like that's great life advice in general. You might fail, but do it again.
Yeah, for sure. So are there any conferences you plan on going to this year?
Yeah, so I would hope to go back to B-Sides this year. And I kind of want to go to Black Hat. Like I know that it was, or not Black Hat, DEF CON. I know that it was canceled and then they uncanceled it like a week later. So I think that if they legit are going to have it, I want to go down there and make an appearance.
I was reading that the hotel they usually have it in, is it Caesar's Palace or something? And they were like, we really hate you guys because nobody leaves their room. Nobody spends any money. Please stop coming here.
Goodness. So I think that it was probably for the best. I know they said it was mutual, but that hotel, I think it might have been either Caesars or MGM, but whichever one was compromised in that huge attack where everything just kind of like shut down in Las Vegas, that was the same hotel they were going to go to. So it probably was, a little bit too fresh to have the biggest hacking convention at the hotel that had millions of dollars of losses from a recent compromise.
Man, that just got dark. that got dark really fast. Are you going to go to Afrotech? Are we going to see you at Afrotech?
Maybe you can dispel this, but I follow Afrotech and I've seen mixed reviews on it where people were saying that it's just a big cookout with people in tech. And one, there's nothing wrong with that. But two, have you found that it's been a valuable thing to have, or is it more of just like party based and networking?
Girl, I haven't been to Afrotech. I'm trying to go this year.
Yeah.
I told you, like, going to conferences has never been my ministry because I don't have the attention span most times. And so that's why, for instance, for the SANS CTI conference or summit to have held my attention, I'm like, I am going to go to that thing until it is no more. But yeah, we are planning or hoping to go to Afrotech. So I was like, you coming too, girl?
Gotcha. I will wait for your review.
Oh, okay. All right, that's fine. Okay. So we're coming up on the end. We've actually surpassed it, but Anthony's used to it by now. Really, he should just give us an hour and a half. I mean, what else? I mean, hey. Okay. So you briefly mentioned it before, like in terms of disconnecting and stuff like that. But how do you stay grounded? Because burnout is such a huge, huge topic in our industry. It's something that I've dealt with. I don't know if Tiffany, have you dealt with it?
Yeah, a little
bit, right? So burnout is such a huge thing in our industry. Like, how do you stay grounded and avoid that?
Yeah, so a lot of times I have to like take a moment to step back from whatever situation that's like bothering me or something where I just feel like this is huge, this is important, and just taking a step back and saying, is this really as bad as I'm making it? Am I, kind of catastrophizing it? Like, I just try to keep things in perspective. And then I do check-ins with myself. Why am I feeling like this? Is this something that I legitimately, need to navigate? Or is this something that is a result of me just working too much, working too hard, working too long, and I just need to take a break? So I think just having those little break points where it's like, I need to make sure that everything's good and I'm not burnt out, and just being actively aware of it. I also think that keeping my plate reasonable has helped me a lot with avoiding burnout to begin with. I used to be the type to just take everything on and I'll figure it out later. But now I kind of do forward planning where it's, okay, I have this like 5 or 6 things to do. This is what my focus is at. And then when one falls off, another can come onto the plate.
That sounds like you have, what's the word I'm looking for? Give me a word. It's about time management. Perfected. It seems like you have perfected time management.
I'm working on it. I'm actively working on it. But, working from home also, for better or for worse, makes it easier because, I can just work into the nighttime and sit on my sofa with my dog and, work through things. So,
Josey, is there anything you know now that you wish you had known earlier in your career?
yeah, I would surmise it as it's not that deep. Feel free to make mistakes. It's not going to be the end of the world. And making sure that even if it feels like it's super big and terrible right now, it probably won't matter in a week, a month, a year. And to just, don't let small hiccups or a bad day say that you have a bad career or a bad life or something like that. So just, I would tell myself, make sure you keep your head up because everything will eventually work out.
Well, I think we can actually wrap it up. Are you ready to wrap it up, Tiffany?
I'd like to say thank you to you, Josey, for being a part of the Stats on Stats podcast. We really appreciate your time and energy. We also like to thank our viewers and our listeners for joining in and being a part of our show today. Josey, do you have, I know you've already provided some resources. Would you like to connect with anyone who's listening to our show today?
Yeah, of course. I'm always open, or I'm always available on LinkedIn. So I'll definitely pass that over and, connect with me.
Do you have any projects that you want to highlight or shout out before we end it?
Yeah, no, I don't have anything I'd like to shout out.
Okay, cool. Well, shout out to Josey's dog. Yeah, anyway, thank you so much. We do appreciate you joining us, for real. We're really humble. We're honored because, realistically, you could be doing anything on this beautiful Saturday, but you chose to spend some of your time and your energy with us. So, endless gratitude. Truly, we appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, thank y'all. We hope you guys tap in again soon. Ciao.